and welcome to the Two Pros podcast. This is a new venture for myself, Gareth Shaw, and my fellow PGA colleague, Joe Machin. Joe, how are you?
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, pal. Really looking forward to this. To be fair, it's something new and exciting.
This was conceived out of a WhatsApp conversation of, shall we do this? Shall we have a chat? We chat on possibly every Tuesday anyway. It's our kind of practice night. So why not record it now? We can't get out at the moment. And this is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think from some of those conversations we've had, obviously on a Tuesday night, we've kind of gone, oh, why haven't we told somebody that before? Or why has that not been come out before? And I think there's a lot of things that this could bring to forefront of mind.
Yeah, exactly. Just to kind of give everybody a bit of a brief about what the podcast's all about. We both work within the golf industry. We both kind of support varying clients and varying people within the industry. And we want to bring you a podcast that's going to be 30 minutes in length. And that is a kind of guarantee that we're going to stick to that time. And with that, we're going to talk about lots of different subjects. We're going to have weekly themes. So this week's theme is going to be all about new tech, new product that is out into the market. And then week on week, we're going to be bringing you new themes and just different things. So Joe, new tech. I think you've got some new tech behind you, haven't you?
I do, yeah, full bag of new tech actually. So just had all the PXGs through start of the year, got fitted for those. So really looking forward to seeing how they perform and what we can do through the season with them. But ultimately we're coming to everybody on sim release day, unbeknown to us.
It was good planning. Good planning. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's what we'll call it. But yeah, really excited to see that. Obviously, the sim was a really solid driver last year, and to see what they've kind of done to it to improve. I'm really keen to see what that's done.
It's one of those, I think, with the sim. When I always do this with TaylorMade drivers, I see them kind of visually like in digital format and think they look really ugly. But then when you sit it behind the ball and you get it in your hands, you're like, wow, this is a really good looking driver.
Yeah, I think interesting with TaylorMade, with obviously they've been synonymous with dropping a lot of clubs in a short amount of time. They've obviously curved that in previous years. And I think they've bought out some really good clubs, but they haven't bought out a real signature driver for quite a long time now. Like the M5, M6 kind of disappeared a little bit. It didn't outperform. That's why I think when the sim come out, it hit stores, hit tour very, very well. And it'd be interesting to see if the sim 2 does the same or whether it just follows on. But like you say, from the pictures I've seen, it's slowly growing on me, but I wasn't love at first sight with it. But once that's behind the ball, it'll be a different story and see how it performs.
Yeah, and I've seen from a lot of the other manufacturers as well, the new Epic Speed, the new Ping G425, they're all kind of, again, good looking drivers, but from reviews and things that I've read out there, there's not a massive jump in yardage. Maybe straightness, maybe a little bit more straightness we're getting this year, but yardage is barely going up.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, there's an interesting side of it there, like you say, where realistically players are only going to see a huge improvement, a noteworthy improvement, if it's a 4 or 5 year old driver. I mean, there's a lot of people that change gear every year that they're not going to see the same gains that somebody from 4 years ago have. It'd be interesting to see, though, like you say, dispersion, it's becoming part of the game as players are getting longer. We've got to tighten that dispersion up. And if a driver can help to do that, then who knows?
Yeah, and I think, what are your thoughts on the 3 drivers with a lot of the manufacturers? They're kind of going for a low speed, a standard, and then almost like a max, like a real forgiving driver. What are your thoughts?
I think Ping obviously kind of started this out a number of years ago with the K, the G, and I believe it was it won't come to me now.
Was it the I?
It was the I driver. Yeah. And that was generally, like you say, a draw bias, a standard one, and a bit of a low spin one. I think the way that shafts are evolving now and what we can do with weight placement, the kind of low spin one is coming away. And I think we've seen that in a couple of videos recently on the G425 and the Epic, where the more forgiving head actually was outperforming in terms of dispersion. low spin doesn't always guarantee distance. And I think it could come to that where dispersion, if it's going to be more important this year, why not have something forgiving?
Yeah, exactly. And but the thing that gets me with drivers is that I don't know what your thoughts are, but I don't know how far they can go. I know we've talked about movable weights on the inside, on the outside, kind of jailbreak now around the circumference of the face. How far can they go, Joe? What are they going to do?
It's going to be interesting to see, because I mean, for years we probably said this 10 years ago of where can drivers go, and TaylorMade had just bought out an R7 with these adjustable little weights in it, and we kind of thought that was as far as we could go. Obviously Callaway kind of came out with carbon fiber crowns. We started to see some incredible tech that came through in such a short space of time, and it's just kind of evolved from there. And I'm a personal believer that we will find something within the next few years that they will do again. And that will ultimately, we'll look at it in a few years' time, go, well, why wasn't that thought of 10 years ago? Obviously, these R&B guys.
You think of the slider and drivers like that, they were ahead of the time, weren't they, really?
Yeah, I was a big fan of the slider, to be fair. The only problem was it was an old school head design with a really new piece of technology, and it was just a fraction before its time.
Yeah.
And then you see it put into the M1 and ultimately subsequent drivers from TaylorMade, and you come to something like the same, and it's been massively popular.
That was a great driver, that M1 was. I really liked that driver.
Yeah, that first year's one was really, really aggressive, and I think they improved it in a way in 2017 that was more forgiving, and that almost started exactly the conversation we've just had there, where dispersion and forgiveness is a massive part of a top player's game as well.
Yeah. With people out there probably looking at these driver reviews, is that the advice you give them? Like the kind of, if you've got a driver 4 or 5 years old, maybe look to change, but if not, keep the one you've got in your bag?
Yeah, I think we've always had, and I'm sure you can say the same, a club that we regret getting rid of. There's always one that springs to mind. But that's what we see a lot of. People jump to new tech and they come away from something that they really love because they feel a need for something new in the bag. But if you've got that fairway finder that you know you can step on a tee down the 18th and you need your par, then you've got that in the bag, and there's no reason to change that. No amount of money can change that back. So yeah, I think 4 or 5 years down the line, you're going to see a difference. But immediately year to year, I can't see it.
I counted up today. I've had 18 drivers in 10 years.
I mean, considering I've known you for that 10-year period, I can believe that, and I'm slightly surprised it wasn't higher. Yeah, I mean, you know me with sets of clubs, I'm 1 a year if we're lucky. But I think that's part of it.
Yeah, and we're in the industry, Joe, aren't we? At the end of the day, we're seeing product firsthand. It's that kid in a sweet shop with us, and we get preferential rates with some manufacturers, which is we're very lucky, and we're very lucky to get, because we sell the product, or especially yourself sells the product. Why, you always said this to me, why wouldn't you? If you've got the opportunity to play one of the best manufacturers that's sitting behind you, why would you not play that golf equipment?
Yeah, I mean, for anyone that doesn't know, I was Callaway beforehand. Absolutely adore the brand. I think they're great, but I think the more you can get out to try, the better it's becoming. The only thing I'm starting to see now, and we're seeing it on tour more, is there's less full bag brand loyalty. So we're starting to see TaylorMade drivers in with Callaway irons, Shrixon irons. And I think that's something that I would certainly offer as a piece of advice to anybody that's looking to put in a new set, is don't buy the 3-wood because you bought the driver. Get them fitted individually on different days, because you might go in looking at this Sim 2, you might hit it really, really well in the driver, but who knows, the Cobra 3-wood might be so much better for you as a player. And we've all got our own preferences, and you've got to get fitted to those.
Yeah, I've done that in the past. I've gone in with a brand in mind that I wanted, or I had my heart set on, and I didn't come out with the brand because, like you said, it just didn't fit me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I spent a lot of time, obviously, in golf retail, and I've seen people as well turn down a better option because they wanted a certain brand. And you're going to be seeing them again soon because they're not wholeheartedly happy with the decision they've made.
Yeah, I think we would go amiss if we didn't talk about price with these new drivers, especially the Ping and the Titleist and the Callaway. What are your thoughts?
Golf's getting expensive again. I mean, it took a dip probably 5 to 10 years ago, where it was becoming more accessible as a sport, and I think that was a great decision. My worry is for golf retailers as to what's going to happen within that short space of time, because once again, if you've paid 400, 450 for a driver, and now the new Titleist's out, I believe that's 450, 500. It's top end, and there's not, I don't know many people that could do that 2 years on the bounce. And I think when you're issuing a driver at 500, it's got to be a hell of a club. It really has. It's got to be something really special. And whether they can fulfill that or not is a separate question.
Especially when you can pick up the old Titleist driver for £270, £280 brand new.
Yeah, exactly. I think, like you say, when people have got a budget in mind, when you look at £500, it's the best part of a set of irons.
Yeah. And
I know for sure in the role in coaching I am, if you come to me with £450, I would rather give you £450 worth of lessons than fit you for a £450 driver, because you'll see more improvement.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we talked about it yesterday, of the fact that I'd love to offer that service to people that they kind of, right, give me a budget, let's go and find you some golf clubs that are going to be in your price range, but also you'll be able to play and you'll enjoy with them. Because it is, like you said, it is expensive, but I can totally understand from the manufacturer side of things as well, of the production costs, the import charges, the export charges, all the kind of nuances that we don't see behind the scenes as well. But I do think that 500 barrier, wow, that's a lot for a driver.
Yeah, it's getting pricey. I mean, just whilst we're on the price conversation, is PXG. I mean, they've released that 0211 line now. I'm really excited to see where that goes. So for anybody that doesn't know, the current driver in the bag of mine at the moment is around about £410 to £450, depending on your choices with shafts. This driver's come out at £320. Now that's way, way under budget of everybody else on the market. So I'm intrigued to see the quality of that and what that can bring to golfers. Yeah. Because if that's a good driver, that could be a funeral for a couple of big companies.
And what I love about that as well, it goes back to what TaylorMade used to do with their kind of M or S, whatever line you want to call it, and then their burner range. They did that, didn't they? Their kind of burner range was a more a budget line, and then your M's and your S's going into now were more of your kind of premium. I think that's a great move. I know Callaway have done it in the past. Ping, like you said, did it with maybe their K range as well. The other G and the K and the I range. And I don't think that's a bad move, manufacturers going back to that point.
Yeah, I think the only apprehension I have with them as a brand now is obviously they were very, very expensive, and certain clubs in the range still are. I just hope this doesn't pull their reputation down as a quality club maker. That I've obviously got questions having a set here. What is the difference between the 320 and the 450 version? What am I going to see different? The immediate spring to mind is there's no adjustability in the cheaper one, so it's going to rely on a good fit. But for most beginners, adjustability probably isn't the greatest factor in what the golf club can do.
Oh God, the amount of people I see coaching and they haven't even touched. It was set on what they've either inherited from somebody else or that they've just bought and left it as it is. And the amount of lessons I've actually adjusted to get them in the right fit, crazy. You do it and then you go, right, just leave it alone now. You've got the good fit for you. Crack on.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, that's exactly what it is. And it gives somebody a great ability now to come into golf. Because, like you say, it's not cheap. When you start playing, you're paying either £20 green fees, you're paying at least a £500 golf membership a year to a club if that's the way you've gone. You don't need then a £2,000 set of golf clubs on top that may not be fully suited, or the player may not get as much out of them as they can. And I think releasing a cheaper set of clubs works really well to get people in with a really good brand, and then it allows you to move up.
Yeah, I totally agree on that one. What are your thoughts on, I know you were going to ask me this question, but what are your thoughts on the kind of adjustability and moving of weight in the drive, especially for the recreational golfer?
I think we're seeing it become refined, and I like that a lot. I'm a big fan of that as a thought. So what I quite like is set weight positions. Instead of where we saw, as we spoke about the slide of the M1, where it had a front and back weight track that was just chaos to say the least. And somebody would always be tinkering with it to try and find that extra few more yards. Having something a little bit more refined in sense of a draw, a fade, and a neutral setting allows people to put it in and leave it be, like you say. It stops that tinkering element. And I think that's somewhere that we're going to see, especially with Ping, with the G425 this year. I'm excited to see that. Yeah,
because it's just a sliding bar with Ping this year, isn't it? Or not a sliding bar, it's just three points of contact along the back.
Yeah, just three. It's essentially the same as the G410 was. Not quite as wide a track, but a heavier weight. So you're sustaining the MOI. It's still going to be a nice forgiving driver. And it's also brought that gear effect down. So for anyone that catches one out the toe, you're not going to see many snap hooks out the heel. You're not going to see kind of slice away. That I think is great because it adds that forgiveness. It adds a little bit of customization to it without it being the driver's only trick. And I think that'll be a really...
I've seen a lot of people with that G410 in the bag, still. Patrick Reed, Mal Reed, I think Harris English had it in the bag as well. There's a lot of players still gaming that G410.
Yeah, and this is exactly what we've just said there, that what you're actually going to find is a well-fit G410 and a well-fit G425 might not be that different. It will only be sponsorship contracts that are forcing players to have the new one in the bag. But I think that's exactly the point. If you've got a G410 in the bag, unless the G425 is so much better, then you're probably better sticking with what you know.
Yeah, or going looking for a bargain and go find a G410.
Yeah. Dare we use the words X demo at this time of year?
Hey, if honestly, Joe, if I wasn't in the profession, that's where I'd be. I'd be looking at X demo product, and I'd be looking at, because my God, it's my dad's fault. He's brought me up on kind of bargain hunting and trying to find something that's not too expensive. But yeah, I'd be in that mindset now. I'd be looking at product that, again, get them on a launch monitor, get them on a TrackMan, Foresight, whatever it may be, and go and see the difference. Because when you can see, I don't think £100 a yard is worth it. So if you're paying £300 extra on a £150 driver and you're getting 3 yards more, why?
You've got to have a lot of disposable income to freely make that decision without thinking about it. Yeah. You're spot on.
What are your thoughts about irons? Because there's new irons in the market, and the thing that kind of I bugs me, to be honest, is the strength of the clubs now in terms of the irons, the lofts.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year again. I think, as you said with drivers earlier on, what are we going to see next? I think we're seeing irons get as good as they can be on the current design at the moment. And I'm going to use Ping as a prime example, the 425 compared to the 410. How much difference there is going to be in those, I'm not entirely sure. It will be interesting to see. I think what we're seeing, though, with irons is we're seeing more of a variation. So we're now seeing a really kind of game improvement club. Take something like the G700, the P790. You've then got your kind of mid-range clubs, so your G425s, your standard P760 range, and then you've got your blades and your kind of more positive clubs. And I think what you're able to do is build a set once again that suits you. So in the bag behind me, I've gone combo set this year, a little bit more forgiving in the top end of the bag because, well, why wouldn't you? Yeah. I'm unfortunately not in a place where I strike a 4-iron pure every single time. So to have that little bit more forgiveness works really, really well.
And I think that's the beauty, again, if people go out there and get fit, is they can have that variety. Don't just go and buy off the shelf. go and get fit, and you can have that set makeup that you want as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's absolutely perfect, is that you can build exactly what you want. And that's such a power position to be in when you're looking at a new set of clubs and spending a lot of money. You probably wouldn't go out and buy a brand new car off the internet without test driving it or seeing if it had the features that you wanted in it.
Yeah.
So do the same with your golf clubs. Go and get fitted, try them. And this is another thing that I was going to mention to you, is how long do you think it is before we'll start to see different brands of iron in the bag?
Yeah. I don't think we're far off. I know some of the players have started doing it, and something as well that we're going to be talking about on the podcast is that different brands. So brands that we're maybe not a fade with. I know Patrick Reed did that last year with a different branded club, and I know again I think it's a player on tour now is playing Muir irons for the first time on tour. I think he's a Mexican golfer who's playing Muir irons. So I think there'll be different brands in the bag, and I'd like that. I think there's room in the market for a company, right? We're driver specialists, we're iron specialists, we're putter specialists, we're wedge specialists. You don't have to be a jack of all trades at everything.
Do you think kind of brands are guilty of that then, of trying to do a little bit too much with everything?
Yeah, a prime example for me is Mizuno. I think if Mizuno would just concentrate on their iron range, I know the driver's massively improved, but if they concentrated on their irons and potentially wedges, I just think they're a massive company. I'm not just trying to take it away from them, but also I wonder how much they lose in putter sales or lose in driver sales against the other manufacturers, your Odysseys, your Scotties of the world.
Yeah, I mean, is that the way to go? Is it better to outsource? So as we've seen, Titleist have got Scotty, and that is, there you go, do your thing. They've got Bob Vokey that makes great wedges. And if you split those up into individual sections, Vokey don't make a great driver because they don't make one. Yeah. So they make great wedges because they're a wedge specialist.
Yeah,
I'd be really intrigued. I mean, obviously you've got an individual putter brand in the bag, and it's a great putter. I love it.
And I think the key there for us well is look farther or further afield. Don't be afraid of going away from your mainstream manufacturers. There's some great independent manufacturers out there now, or new startup companies who are creating good product. Good product.
I mean, a prime example springs to mind there is Vice. I mean, they weren't a big brand, 3 or 4 years ago? And now they seem to be a massive kind of part and really rivaling the golf ball game. And I wonder how long it'll be until we start to see a couple of contracts on tour for people playing Vice golf balls.
Yeah, when they're into the market with the influencers like Peter Finch and people like that, they're making inroads, and then they're doing collaborative shoe contracts with Adidas. I think it's refreshing now. I think these companies, when I was at the PGA show last year, it was so refreshing to see so many different and new companies out there who had something different to offer. It was great.
Yeah, I think golf's been very set in its ways in terms of brands. And I think even 10 years ago, you wouldn't have seen a brand come out and rival the Titleists of the world back then, because I don't think they had the advertising power because the market share that a lot of the big kind of five had. As well, now social media is such an amazing place to put stuff out. And obviously you work with a lot of these guys to see what's up and coming, and that must be seriously exciting.
Yeah, you know me, I'm a glutton for a freebie or a promotion or a post or something like that. But for me, it's intrigue, and I love supporting new startup brands and people who just need that little bit of an ear or a test or a little bit of feedback. And I'm not asking for money for it. I just like it, because if that makes them grow in the industry, it's going to give people out there more choice, and ultimately it's probably going to bring the price down as well, like you said at the start of the conversation. So the more the merrier. The more people who want to come into the industry and try their hand at making balls, clubs, whatever you want to do, great. It's going to be better for the consumer to give them choice.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And let's be fair, as we've both tested products, not everything has been brilliant. We've not loved every single item. And I can thoroughly say when I come out and say I really like this, like you say, we aren't getting paid for things. it is because it's a genuine love. And for me, it goes straight to coaching bag behind us. And it's something that most of my lessons will probably get the use of or see, and it helps them to understand a technique change or help them in a sense of improving.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the key. And kind of, we'll just wrap up tonight's kind of first pod. And again, it's flown, the time's just flown by. But I think my point one would be, Joe, do we need to go out and buy a new driver this year or not?
On merit of it, last year's driver, no, don't bother. 5 years ago, test it, see how much better it is, and work out obviously how much it's going to cost you per yard. 7 to 10 years since your last driver, go and try it.
Yeah, so we're talking more than 5 or 6, really, aren't we? If you've got a driver in your bag, maybe like an Epic, or like you said, one of the G range or G series, maybe go and try the new 425.
Yeah, I mean, look at Rick Shields' recent video. Tested the Ping G against the G425, and there's 4 yards in it.
Yeah,
it's one of those. It's not making that much difference. Consistency wise, it may be a lot better. So I'd go and try it in case it is the driver that's going to make your game better.
And
I think from last year.
No, and I think probably the caveat to that is as well. Don't go off our word. If you fancy a new driver and you want to make yourself feel good when you step out to lockdown on that tee with a new Sim 2, Epic Speed, 425, wherever it may be, do it. If you've got the money, go and do it. Go have some fun.
Yeah, I think, like you say, there and there is going to be a lot of people with kind of itches and stuff that they need to go out and buy. Go and try everything. There's no pressure to buy it the very first day that you go into the shop. Go and try absolutely everything. Get fitted for all the brands and see which one works the best for you.
Yeah, and please, people out there, please don't hesitate to kind of contact me and Joe on social channels. You can find us either by name, or mine is gareth.shaw.golf on Instagram. Joe, what's your plug?
I'm JS Machin Golf.
Cool. So you'll find us. You'll find us. Drop us a line. Drop us a question. And again, the key for me tonight is we don't need to go and buy a driver. Maybe if you're 5, 6, 7, 10 years old in your bag, go and try a new one. But also just shop around, because there's some deals to be had on maybe last year's drivers or X demos as well.
Yeah.
Joe, what are we talking about next week?
So we're going to take a look into kind of up and coming brands. It's something, like you say, we've had the pleasure of working with a few really good brands that I think are going to gain some traction in 21. And like I say, I want to bring those to kind of people's minds to go and explore, go and have a look at different areas of the game that they might not initially know.
Yeah. You enjoyed that tonight, Joe? You had fun?
That's been an absolute pleasure. First one. Like I say, we've done a lot of these for other people, and it's nice to do one for ourselves. So I look forward to next week.
I hope everybody's enjoyed it out there. If you've listened, you've watched, really appreciate your support. Share it with your pals. Tell people about the 2 pros who are doing a podcast. And again, thanks, Joe, for tonight. And everybody else, we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.